Willkommen in der Santana Bay, willkommen zu Humans and Robots Teil 3. Ich treffe hierbei auf Menschen aus der Fangemeinde, sammle mit ihnen ein bisschen übers Hobby, höre mir ihre Geschichten an und lerne sie dabei ein bisschen besser kennen. Start right away.
Okay, cool.
So welcome everybody to the third episode of Humans and Robots, my little sit-down format that I started a few weeks ago. And my guest today is Mr. Bobby Skullface. Welcome, my friend.
Right.
I think a lot of people already know you, know your channel. I think you've gained some popularity over the last two. I don't know, how long are you doing this now?
5 years. 5 years I've been doing this.
Oh, really? Okay. Long time and a long breath in this. And I think a lot of people think you made a very good name for yourself in the past, and I think a lot of people know you. But still, for those that don't know you, here's a little room just to introduce yourself, what you're doing, maybe why you're doing it, or what you do different now than you did 5 years ago, maybe.
I have a YouTube account, and that's where most people know me from. And I review some toys there, not as much as I used to. Now I focus a lot more on discussion stuff. I like kind of generating discussion and getting people thinking and talking and, you know, even hopefully debating their ideas, you know, respectfully, healthy discourse. I run or I co-host Nerd Rage Radio, a podcast, and from that, we have different shows underneath that. The Irregular Collectors, Force Sensitive starts this month. So I do all that stuff. I'm on Shattercast Uncut every week, and then I run with my wife, Defending Our Missing Heroes, which is like the art stuff. And I think that's it. I think that's
enough.
It is.
I will definitely come back to some of these, especially the DMH part, which I think is pretty interesting for a lot of people, because I don't think that a lot of people know about this, at least not outside of the States.
Yeah,
maybe we can just tackle this for a minute. What exactly is Defending Our Myth and Heroes? How did it start, and what you try to achieve with it?
That's kind of where it all started, and I started kind of with the idea of giving back to local heroes. My father was a firefighter, and I went to funerals for guys that from cancer or what have you. And I happened to read an article that had 3 firefighters in my area, like where I live, were having some sort of cancer. So they were like doing an investigation into what was in the paint and what was in the whatever. So I did this drawing of Inferno, Ratchet, and Red Alert, and I put it on a mug and I sent it to each one of them, and they were very appreciative, and they didn't know me and I didn't know them, but I think they were a little confused at first, but once they got it, kind of got it. And it said fight on the other side. So 2 out of 3 ended up surviving. One unfortunately ended up losing his life. They did a fundraiser for the third and asked if they could auction off my drawing, and I said sure. I said, I'll get you a print that's colored, and then I'll get you a black and white original that I did, and you can auction off both. Now they both went for like a couple $100 a piece, but it was not because it was so great artwork, but because people are trying to raise money. People want to spend money to go to the fund. So, but it gave me the idea, like I could do this, give back a little something each year. And that's kind of where it all started. So we've donated to National Fallen Firefighters. We've donated to Concerns of Police Survivors, which is the same thing for police officers that were killed in the line of duty. We donated to Wounded Warriors a couple times. And then we had just in our state, a fireman died in the line of duty this past year. And we made a donation to his family directly last year. So every year we make a donation on behalf of DMH. And DMH is kind of the top of the pyramid in terms of where everything else comes from underneath, like Skullface and Nerd Rage and all that kind of stuff, like all kind of funnels to there.
Pretty cool. Very, very cool. Is there any way to, how can people contribute to this, just by buying pieces of you or merchandise from you? Or is it just like, is there a way to spend money on your
Yeah, so I have all the prints available on the Defending Our Missing Heroes Facebook page, and we can make an order happen for you. Obviously, as you well know, it gets a little bit more complicated when we're dealing out of the country, but for the most part, as long as we have it in stock and you're within the States, we can get it to you in a week, no problem, unless we have to special order something. But we offer blankets, woven blankets, fleece blankets, towels, beach towels, coasters, mugs. We have a ton of stuff. Beer openers. Like, we have a ton of product that we offer. You just got to let us know what you want.
Beer openers, I think the people in Germany would want. So, okay. So I will,
Nice.
for those watching, I will put the link for DMH in the description of this video. So go check that one out. I think it's a very good project. I think it is worth contributing to and supporting. So please go there. Let's just take maybe a few steps back. I think because this is my channel basically is about Transformers, but I don't want to limit it to this because I know that you are, I think you're most successful with your Transformers stuff.
Correct.
But it's you're definitely interested in doing more than just Transformers.
Yeah, it's been challenging to get anything else to pop on my channel, but Transformers, I love Transformers, but it's in my top 5, but it's not in my top 3. So I've been trying to get other stuff to pop, but it's just been impossible, it seems like. So most of the stuff that I do on the main channel now is just Transformers related. I might throw my hat in the ring on a few more ideas this year, but I haven't totally decided yet. It's very time consuming stuff, as you know. So I kind of had to. I got 3 kids, man. I got a career. I got the DMH stuff. I got the podcast stuff. I got, there's a lot that I try to help out with, and it's gotta, like, every second counts. So it kind of has to be worth my while to do these.
Yeah, absolutely understandable. It's kind of frustrating when you do a video and you're putting effort into it. It's just like people don't. It's not like people don't like it. If they would at least watch it and then just gave you a negative feedback because they just don't like the topic, that's one thing. But if it just doesn't appeal to the people, that's a little frustrating. I can imagine. Is there? You said there it's your top 5. Is there any? If there's any franchise that hasn't gotten some sort of masterpiece-like toy line in the past, which franchise you would like to see in that category?
I've always said that I'd like to see Mortal Kombat, but like we're getting the Storm Collectible stuff now, and they're not necessarily on the same level as Masterpiece per se. In some ways they are, but I think that's kind of close enough. I think with the Star Wars stuff and the Marvel and DC, you kind of got Hot Toys and you got all sorts of options, Sideshow and XM and Prime One and all these companies that contribute super high dollar, high quality kind of stuff for them. So I don't necessarily feel that same lull. There's other franchise I'd like to see like kind of make a return, but even then I don't know if I'd be in. I would love to see Turtles get like an expanse like of line, like everybody kind of runs the 4 Turtles into the ground and then gives up on the franchise, where I would like to see more Bebops, more Rocksteadies, more Baxter
Stockmans.
Would like to see them kind of make a real run at that franchise. I would love to see a DC 6-inch line, that wasn't done by Mattel. I'm a DC fan. It's one of my favorite franchises in the world, and I would love to see like something that was done on a really high level. It doesn't have to be like Figuarts. I could just be what Marvel Legends are right now, what Hasbro's doing with them, but just something that's better than giving us.
Yeah, I can imagine. Talking about Hasbro and the Marvel Legends, I think Hasbro and you told us on your channel several times that the Star Wars line, the Black Series, and the Marvel Legends seem to get more love from Hasbro than their original franchise, the Transformers.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, you always say that you like to speculate on especially on the sit-down Saturday discussions. So, what do you think? How important is Transformers to Hasbro?
I guess they have to be important because they, ever since Beast Wars, I feel like they've they've made a conscious effort to kind of keep them in the ether, but I don't know if they've ever really given it all they have ever since Beast Wars, maybe. And I'm not a big Beast Wars fan, but I think they gave Beast Wars everything they had at that time. I don't know if they've really done it again. Maybe Transformers Prime I might throw in that arena.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. I don't know. We don't have a 6-inch Joe line. I don't know why they haven't tried that. Like,
true.
There's a lot of questions I have regarding that. I think that, when they're dealing with licenses, like when they're dealing with the Marvel license and they're dealing with the Star Wars license, like that's two of the biggest licenses on the planet in terms of this particular genre, I think that the last thing they want to do is even flirt with the idea of losing those licenses. So they have to make sure it's up to code, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, okay, I see where you're coming from. So they really have to keep these running, and maybe they put the extra love that they have, because as you said, they don't have all the time in the world too, and all the money in the world, so they have to decide which one to prioritize, and they take the big license stuff.
And I'm sure they look at those numbers. I'm sure, and I'm sure when the dotted line says that, this is generating this much, and this is generating this much, and this is generating this much, well, then the budgets are going to be split up accordingly for those kind of divisions, I would imagine. And like you said, this is all speculative, but I can't imagine that. I can't imagine that the budget for the department and the product and the sales are not all related,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This actually brings me back to the question that I asked you the first time we tried this, and you already gave me the answer, but I still want to repeat the question because it's somewhat related to the thing we just talked about. And the question is, why does Hasbro Takara allow so much third-party companies to be around and at least steal their intellectual property? Not talking about the designs. This is the whole KO discussion. We don't need to do this here because I think everybody watching my channel and your channel should be aware of where to draw the line between a KO and a third-party product.
It's very clear.
To me, you actually gave me the perfect example with the artist that just like takes a character and draws his own picture or just draws after another. It's pretty perfect.
Yeah. That's the best way I know how to describe it. And obviously, I mean, like, when they're drawing, like if I draw Batman right now, I don't own Batman, and I have drawn Batman, and I have sold Batman, and I don't own that. But I did do that piece originally, and then I didn't trace it, and that's what a KO is. And then to kind of go deeper into that, like there's a deeper conversation to have there in regard to companies and ownership. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that creators shouldn't own what they create, and I'm not saying that companies shouldn't own what their creators have created under certain circumstances, but there is something that I feel like at the very least we need to agree needs to be tabled about a company, which is an inanimate thing that we are assigning meaning to, having ownership of something else. Like, that's something that needs to be, I feel like, discussed. But
yeah.
In regard to your question, I think that they can't do anything about it. I think if they could have done something about it, they would have. That's such a tricky thing, right? To say like, this is mine, because like you can't trademark a red robot,
True.
any more than you can trademark a yellow robot. The question I think comes more into interpretation of how close is too close, and then the amount of money it would take in legal fees to kind of fight that fight in a foreign land. I don't think they can do it. I think if they could, they would have. I talked to a guy at Celebration. He was an ex-employee of Hasbro. And I talked to him about third party recently. He worked on Star Wars 3 3/4 stuff and some other stuff. But he was like, yeah, man, it drives them nuts. Don't think for a minute. They don't care.
Okay.
They definitely care. Like, they definitely care. They're definitely thinking about it all the time. It drives them nuts. He said one of the biggest questions they had is how they could afford to do it, because he said for every mold that Hasbro makes for a Transformer, it's about $100,000. So he was just,
really?
Yeah. So he was just curious as to how these third-party companies. But he said like it was like a joke around like the break room. You know, like you'd walk in and like one of the Transformer guys would walk in and they'd be like, you know, people would start joking about like third party pieces they were going to buy or whatever, like just like, break balls. Like, but he said it's definitely like, it's not a little deal. It's a big deal.
And it's very interesting because we
Oh,
were speculating about if maybe this is a lot of tinfoil hat stuff here, but if maybe in the background Takara somehow is related to at least one or two of the third party companies, like for example like the things like Zeta or Toy World who do the big combiners, who I think Takara will never do.
right.
In the at least not in the near future, that they maybe let it pass because they somehow get their fair share of that product, or the money that product generates. What
No,
do you think?
I don't know if I believe that, but I do think that like, so I have two, like I think that a lot of those designers might know each other. They might share ideas and everything else. And like, there's been rumors about Takara designers that have worked on third party pieces that, you know, you know, no one can confirm or deny, of course, but you know, like all of a sudden Unique Toys has two movie figures that are way better than anything they've ever done, you know? Um,
True.
so like that sort of stuff sets my spider sense off, for lack of a better term. And then there's also like this thing of like, I have Hasbro Transformers, right? I don't have many, but I bought some of the Combiner Wars stuff. I bought Metroplex. I bought Trypticon. I bought some of the IDW stuff. And the truth is I probably wouldn't have bought any of that had not third party reintroduced me and resparked kind of my juices, so to speak, for Transformers, because it got me back interested in it. And then I started spending money in other places. So I can't help but think that maybe somewhere, somebody in some room of that office is saying like, it is generating like of course it's a thorn in their side. Of course it's obnoxious, but at the same time it is kind of perpetuating the brand in the franchise among
Yes.
people, you know? So I don't know. I think that the smarter move would have been to get a hold of some of those companies, especially the sharper ones back in the day, and just licensed it. You know, licensed the hell out of it, and got ahead of that. Got ahead of that, because now that there's no getting ahead of it, now it's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. There's way too much of these companies around. And what you said about Unique Toys, I think, currently applies to Toy World with the movie Prime they're doing now, which basically gets all kind of people completely crazy. Even I pre-ordered that thing because it looks absolutely fantastic. And Toy World wasn't known for good figures in the past. I think the last thing that was their cup, which was a disaster. So
I think that's the one Toy World thing I haven't reviewed. I think that Toy World has been known for mediocrity. Like most of the things they've done, they haven't had a whole lot of trash, but they haven't had any home runs either. They just have like that single base hit every time. Like, it wasn't an instructor that they actually like had a home run.
yeah, and
Yeah,
they're milking that cow to the day.
yeah, sure.
What
Sure.
what got me thinking about this, that maybe Takara somehow is related to at least one or two of these third-party companies, is that I play a mobile game that is called Transformers Earth Wars. I don't know if you would know it or heard of it or whatever. And in that game, basically the designs in the game are mostly Generations Combiner Wars, so basic Chuck stuff. But some of these figures are 100% third-party designs. Like they have a Motor Master that looks completely like the TFM powertrain,
Huh.
or the Dinobots look like the Fans Toys one. So this got me thinking, so why they are taking designs from third-party companies?
I can imagine that that's artists. Like I'm working on a drawing right now, right? And I'm really excited about it. And it's like a part one of many.
Is
And
that the female silhouette you posted a few days ago?
no, that one's done. Usually when I
Oh,
post stuff on the Facebook, it's way after it's done.
okay.
I'm working on this one right now, and it's just to tease it a little bit. Like it's going to be one piece, and then it's going to be like a sequel to it and a sequel to it. But then you can also buy them all and line them up, and they'll make like one thing also, like a combiner almost. But
Okay.
it's Transformers related, and I was just drawing the Dinobots for this one part of it, and I needed some reference. for those character designs, and I was looking through the cartoon and I was looking through the comics, and then I was like, you know what? I'll just look at fans toys, and like I just Googled for good pictures of what good Dinobots look like to use to draw. So I can also see how the artists that are working on those games would have done the same thing.
Pretty logical. Pretty logical. Never thought it that way. Yeah, possible.
Just like, nope, this is perfect. Let's just make it look like this.
Maybe it's a tip to the head to the third party companies. Why not? So you, of course, as people can see in the background, and people know that you're not only a reviewer, you're a collector of I don't know how you seem to be collecting so many different lines and things. Any idea how many pieces do you have?
No clue. I counted my Star Wars. I know I have 78 stormtroopers. I have no idea. I have no clue. I probably have around 500 3 3/4 figures, like Star Wars 3 3/4. I've recently, with a lot of these collections, I've been thinning them a bit to try to just have like a less is more approach. So like I thinned a lot of my Transformers recently, and my shelves look better for it. But it's still, when you start talking about like every little piece, like my buddy Adam was just here the other day and counted my Hot Toys. I got 50 Hot Toys.
Jesus. Jesus Christ. And those are not the cheapest one in the game. I don't have a Hot Toys. I don't dare to start with Hot Toys.
Yeah. Well, like Transformers is really mainly your thing, right?
Yeah, I have mainly Transformers is what got me back interested in collecting at all. I started with 3 3/4 stuff, which is absolutely it's dangerous as well, almost as like the Transformers Legends, because they are small, they don't take up much space, they don't eat up a lot of money, and it's pretty easy to get one here, get one there, and it's like it gets a lot of, and then I just started to recollect my Mask stuff from when I was a kid. So yeah, I'm getting deeper and deeper.
Yeah, so like it's one of those things like Hot Toys, you know, it's not the collection for Transformers folks. I have the Hot Toys Prime, and it's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, I saw a lot of Hot Toys stuff that actually got me interested in maybe going down that road one day. But if I ever do it, I definitely the first thing that I will think about is how to display that stuff.
Yeah, dude, that's the way you should think about it. Everything I've learned, because I'm just starting to you know, dabble my toes in this quarter scale a little bit, and I'm definitely display into consideration before I start really buying a whole bunch of stuff.
This is actually one of my general questions I ask all my guests is what is the first tip or the essential tip you would give somebody that wants to start collecting completely from scratch? It hasn't collected anything so far, he's no experience whatsoever. What is the first thing you would tell somebody to think about besides not doing it at all, because it gets very expensive?
I would never say that. I would never say don't do it. But my advice is to figure out what it is you want, how you want it, why are you getting it, and then where do you plan on storing it? Like, those are the big three. So, you know, somebody was like, well, look, I want to collect, you know, DC and Marvel. Okay, well then what do you want to do with them? Well, I want to take photos with them, and I want to do dioramas with them. Like, okay, so do you want to do really dynamic photos? Like, yes. Okay, well, now you're in this pocket. You should probably do 1/12 scale stuff. You know, Marvel Legends, Figuarts, Figma, that sort of stuff of that license. And then, you know, think about where you want to store them, and, you know, go from there. It's a lot of pre-planning that a lot of us don't take into consideration, I think, regarding this. And then before you know it, you have so much stuff, and your surroundings don't reflect the passion or the price tag, and
Yes,
that's when it becomes a problem.
yeah, and I think especially when you have you got a lot of pieces, and you manage to store them somehow on the shelf here, on the shelf there. But when you finally get the idea, okay, I could do this, I could do that, then you're already running out of space, and starting to plan it from scratch is pretty hard. This is actually where I am now, because my cases are pretty full now, and I'm still not satisfied with how they display. And now I'm about the first question I have to ask: if I get a new shelf, for example, where to put it? Yeah, because I would need to put it up just to take all my pieces from the old shelf to the new, because you can't just throw everything on the floor because it's way too expensive to do this. So yeah, it's definitely an important question is how to display your stuff. And as you once said in one of your videos, people spend I think it was the Four Dummies video where you started with the collection pictures and everything. People spend hundreds, thousands of dollars for their collections, but don't waste a single dollar on display.
Yeah, you'll have a $100 toy sitting in a $20 bookcase. Like, it's not going to ever look right. You know, if your intention is to make it look nice, you know, if that is the objective. If you're buying, you know, trash furniture and to kind of just say you have it, like, I don't know, in my opinion, I mean, of course, at the end of the day, like I always say, if you're happy, you win. But in my opinion, you're not doing that piece justice. You know, like you're not. That piece, you spent a lot of money. You worked hard. You got the money. You spent the money to get the piece. Now you have to also spend some money, do some more work to make that piece look the best it can, so that you can get your full money's worth out of the purchase you made. You know, like doing anybody any favors by you know, sitting it on a lawn chair in your basement. You know.
Yeah, I think sometimes maybe some people are like hindered because they can't just display their stuff openly in their house because maybe the family doesn't allow it or whatever, and they just have to cramp it in some sort of dark room where nobody gets in. It's a shame, man.
There's always options. Like if even if you have a dark corner, if all you have is this one dark corner, like make that dark corner look good. You know, like do everything you can to that dark corner. Like, just like so my wife at first, like I was welcome to have the big room in the basement, and then I was welcome to have more rooms in the basement. But then the way I've made this stuff look, you know, she's like, why don't you bring one piece up here? Like we have a couple pieces upstairs now, but it's because I have shown her that, look, this can look classy. It doesn't have to look like, you know, and it doesn't have to look classy either. Like it can look however you want it to look. But that was the way I sold it to my wife. You know, now we have a fireplace upstairs, and we have a Batman, quarter scale Batman statue sitting on it. You know, that my wife couldn't be happier about. Like, I don't know. It deserves. You deserve to be happy. Like if with your purchase, you know, you bought it, you worked hard for it, you have it, you deserve to be happy looking at it. And whatever it takes for that to happen, you might have to step up to the plate, or, you know, and maybe it doesn't take as much as others. You know, that's a added bonus. But, you know, everybody, like the piece loses, you lose, your money loses, everything loses.
Everybody loses. Yeah.
If you spent on it and you're not happy with how it looks.
Absolutely. I would like to get back to your channel just for two questions. What I or at least it made the impression to me that you seem to have some sort of technical understanding, because you're talking about the different ways things can be painted. Like you always say that yellow is a color that is hard to paint, for example. You got a lot of terms for the different joints. You seem to know your way about the material. So where does that came from? Is that because you learned that, or have you any? Is it just by experience because you're doing this for a few years now?
Some of it, like painting, I know all my painting stuff because I painted Warhammer for 15 years.
Okay.
I learned about painting and priming and, you know, metallic paints and flat paints and matte paints and, you know, glossy paints and all that kind of stuff, and washes and dry brushing. Like that's where I learned all that, was from doing Warhammer for, you know, from when I was 15 to when I was about 30. So that's where I learned all that stuff. And then let's see what else. And then as far as like the joints and stuff, I'm, you know, mainly just from kind of just I like it's one of those things like I don't know why it's called a universal joint. It just it's the same reason why I don't know why that's called a door. I just know that it is when I look at it. Like
Okay.
but the painting is from all the painting I did. I've done a lot of painting.
Okay, because I actually I had the problems when I started reviewing that to find just the right German terms for all the different joints, and I just don't want it to just copy the English terms and just use the English terms, because I set up the channel for the German collector so that he doesn't have to watch necessarily an English review because maybe he doesn't speak English so well. That was the idea, and I thought, where do all these terms come from? So okay, got that.
Some made up.
Maybe, maybe, but I think if you did, I think a lot of them just picked up.
It's Kinge. I made it up. Like I made it up to separate it from a ball hinge, and to separate it from a universal joint, so that it was something that everybody would know when they saw it. But it was different. I didn't know. I just it's like a disc that hinges, so I just started calling it a disc hinge, and now people are like, yeah, I know what that is. Like I just made it.
Pretty cool. Speaking about Germany, you got any connections to Germany or Europe in general?
I mean, not directly. My my family is from Europe, and my wife's family is from Europe recently. My wife's grandfather was German, and he fled during the 40s situation. Went to Argentina, married an Argentinian woman. They had a kid, and they came to America. So I mean, my family, my kids are Polish, Russian, English, French, Irish, Italian, Greek, German, Macedonian. And, it's Europe's greatest hits.
All right. So in the end, they're all humans. That's cool.
It's that American, melting pot, I guess.
Yeah. Perfect example, I would say. You travel a lot to conventions. I know you're going to AFCON, and I think you are. I think you were willing to do a lot of traveling and travel a lot of hours if you want to go there. Have you ever went to conventions outside of the States?
I went to TFCon in Canada. That's the only time I've been to a convention outside the States. I've been outside the States. I've been to Europe, but it was a long time ago before kids. I love it over there. I love Europe. You know what I love about Europe, and not to get this too off base, but and maybe it may not be the same now. I don't know. This was in 2005, but in America, a lot of the cities are different. Like Baltimore is different than New York, and New York is different than LA, and et cetera. But for the most part, the towns are identical. Every town has a Walmart, a Target, a Bed Bath and Beyond, a Barnes and Noble, this one, that one. And when I was in Europe, it wasn't like that. It was every town had its own vibe and its own stores and people that had owned those stores, and their parents owned those stores and whatever. I like that a lot because it also seemed like more people put pride into what they were doing because it was it had been passed down. It was a tradition where nobody at Pizza Hut feels like they own any part of Pizza Hut,
Not really. Not really.
That's one thing I just from the outside looking in, I really liked about Europe when I was there.
Yeah, it's getting less and less like that, unfortunately. Because all the big companies are taking over. Just in my town, which has I don't even know how many inhabitants we have, 2,000 or 3,000, and all the local bakeries closing down and big companies coming in, and it's the direction is not good, man. Because I love the owner run shop and owner run stores. I still dig it. So
right. Man, I like going to a different town, and you're oh, I love coming to this town because they got the best whatever pretzels, or I like going to this town, they got the best donuts, or when every town has the same stuff, it's why leave the house?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I experienced it when I went to the States in 2011. I was like, oh, we're going to the States. Let's see what different stuff we can buy there. And it actually was like 70% the same like we get here. And now last year my mom flew to New York for I think Christmas shopping, and she was like, can I get you something? And I was like, I don't think you can get anything there that I doesn't get right now here.
Right. It's just like, it's mainly like food. And like, like if you go to if like you can have crab where in Germany you can have crab, but you haven't had crab until you have Baltimore crab. It's a different, like, it's like a New York pizza or, whatever. Like that's kind of the only thing that we have left here. Like these little, very like regional things that are kind of still sacred, So it just makes life a little bit less interesting. It just makes life a little bit more boring,
True.
Take the magic out of it. Like going into a shopping center and not knowing what stores they were going to have there. There's a charm to that, Now it's like, Absolutely. Oh yeah, of course you got a Domino's and a Dunkin' Donuts and a whatever.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Speaking about shopping, I know you buy a lot of stuff online, but you talk about the shops you buy from. If they are good to you, then you just recommend them, and I think it's a pretty nice way to do. You still do the classic toy hunt, like walking shops, or
I do, but it's far less. Just because I get tired of it, man. I get tired of disappointment. I don't have the best kind of distribution in my area, so it's rare that I get good stuff or good finds. So for me, it's like, man, it's worth paying the extra $20 or $30 online to just lock in. That Black Series wave with Mace Windu and Amidala and all that, that's already out everywhere. I've never seen it, and I haven't pre-ordered, so I'll eventually get it. But I've never seen one figure in real life because we just don't get that kind of distribution out here.
Yeah. I'm asking myself, a lot of people from the States tell me the same story, that they don't have a good distribution. We don't have a good distribution. I'm actually wondering who has.
I think, I don't know, that system is something I'd like to explore a little bit more, but I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever get the opportunity, but I would love to talk to Hasbro and, find out, what the kind of thought process is regarding that. And, why not sell directly online as well, and then you can satisfy. I mean, I'm sure there's a reason for it, like I'm sure I haven't been able to outthink the system. Like these are people with, doctorates and business degrees, but I just would like to know why. I would like, I'd like to
yes.
Me why.
This is exactly what we are doing right now. We are in talk with Hasbro Germany just to find out why the stores don't have for example, our example is the Siege line, because it just has come out. It seems to, most people seem to appreciate it. So there definitely is a market for it, but we still don't get a lot of this, and we try to figure it out. It's pretty interesting because you have Hasbro as the one who produces that stuff and owns that stuff. You have the stores who don't buy it to sell it. Right. And then there's the consumer who often obviously wants it but doesn't get it. So it's a pretty complicated system. I'm curious where this is going. Are you talking? Do you have contact to Hasbro in any sort of form? Zero, really?
Yep, I have no contact at any. Like I can talk to Spence from Moz Toys. Like I can reach out to him, but we don't talk. The only person I've had one interaction with Bold Forms at a con. I talked to Make Toys for a while. We don't talk anymore. I have had one email exchange with Fans Toys when I first got started. They won't talk to me anymore. Gigapower won't talk to me. They talked to me one time. Yeah, I mean, like most companies won't talk to me. As a general rule. So, I mean, and I get it. And it makes it easier. It makes it easier that way, honestly, for me. Like, because then I don't have to worry about hurting anybody's feelings that I've kind of developed friendships or whatever, or relationships with. It makes it easier for me to just have, no contact and just keep it business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when somebody is nice to you, it's definitely harder to to critic a product of his if it's not good.
Right.
It's easy to praise, of course, but it's getting pretty hard.
I met the old guy, and he was a sweetheart, a really, really nice guy, and he introduced his wife, and his wife was extremely pleasant, like just good people, and he was like, I would like for you to review my toy, but I'm afraid you're going to rip it apart. And I was like, dude, if you're afraid I'm going to, then don't send it my way. Don't. Because if you're scared that I might, then that's probably good enough sign to say don't.
Yeah. Yeah. But I appreciate. I think you're the only bigger reviewer that I watch that doesn't have some sort of store plug every now and then. Of course, you tell the people where you got the pieces from, especially when they got sent to you and you send it back or whatever. Even if you bought it somewhere and they were good to you, you tell the people. And I think that's fine because it's not about advertising somebody, but just like, hey, my audience wants these pieces that I have here, and here's a place where you can buy safe.
Yep, and if you want to buy them, they're cool, and if not, that's cool too. It doesn't do anything for me. Do you know what I mean? Like if 50 people use the link, they don't track. None of the places that I use track that sort of thing. So like I have no idea. I'm just really telling people where I bought it from.
Yeah.
The only time I mention where I bought it from is if it's like some big store that you probably already know. Because if you already know those big stores. Like it's probably what you're using. So usually when I mention a store, it's a store that you don't know.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the times when you mentioned it was like the guys like Titan One or East Coast Toys or GCI, the ones that don't have the big websites or big distributions or whatever, and they can definitely use it. And still, these get less and less. I think Titan One is history already. GCI is history.
Titan selling their last thing is the Death Wish that's coming out in a couple of weeks. That's the last thing they're selling. Or Death Wish is out, but they're getting theirs I think in the next week or so, and that's the last piece they're selling.
That's the X Transport, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting that one too. Have you? No. There's these Rising Force Syndicons aren't out yet, right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not getting it. Too many out, and they don't have any kind of reputation or anything, so I'm not taking it.
Yeah, I can imagine. 2 more questions, and then I will relieve you from this conversation. The one thing that I would like to know is you read a lot of IDW stuff. By the way, please, if you find the time, please continue these IDW breakdowns. I really enjoyed these, especially for me because I'm not a native speaker, as you might have can tell, and I don't think that I get every single detail from the comics, and having it broken down just like it really helps. It helps.
I like doing them. I did one of the ones I did on the Blur Spotlight. Like I had somebody that worked on that book, like hit me up on Twitter and was like, dude, like. You got it. Like, you totally got what we were trying to do with this and that, and like, I mean,
cool.
I felt good. It was very rewarding, So it was just a matter of time. I want to do more of those character counts videos too, where I kind of cover a character and all of his incantations or incarnations and all that kind of stuff. But it's just time. But I haven't forgotten about it for sure.
Okay, why I brought IDW into places they are pretty much known for giving characters a little more profile, a little more character depth that weren't in the spotlight in the cartoon. Is there any character that you would like to see fleshed out a little more they haven't done yet? Not necessarily IDW. Every media would count. Any character you think that has the potential to get a little more spotlight?
I would like to see something a little bit more with the monster bots. Like I would like to see them work out a little bit more. I like that in IDW they kind of touched on them a bit, and they treated them like, they were a team, but they were a bunch of eyes on the team as opposed to like a bunch of us on the team or whatever. That they but I would like to see them explored a little bit more. I think they're cool characters. I think they're cool designs, and I think there's potential to kind of develop that more. But I mean, obviously that chapter of IDW is closed, but you could always be open it.
Absolutely. They do it all the time. Interesting choice. Interesting choice. I think the monster bots aren't on many people's radar in terms of interesting characters. So definitely there's potential to give them a little more flesh to the bone. Last question. You're doing, I think, every year a musical video.
Yeah.
I got that right? Anything in plan for 2019?
I know what it's going to be about, but I haven't made much headway. I'm working on it, but I'm hitting some walls in the creative process. But I know what it's going to be about. Excuse me. I know the angle.
Okay, so we'll definitely.
Every year I try to kind of conquer a different thing. Like the first year I was talking about reviewers, and the second year I was talking about the trolls, and the third year I was talking about the fandom, and in the fourth year I was talking about the companies, and in the fifth year I was talking about some of my viewership, and then this next year, this year coming up, I know what I'm going to talk about. I just haven't made it far enough yet. I keep hitting roadblocks in my kind of creative regard, but it's coming. It's gonna. I still, as of right now, have every intention of doing it.
Okay, very good. So I'm looking forward to this. I wish you the best of luck. I wish you the best of luck in general. I really hope your channel keeps flourishing. I hope all the stuff you're doing keep bringing you fun and making you happy with what you're doing. And thank you very much for joining me.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on. I'm glad I was able to work.
Yeah, finally. I'm actually I was a little nervous. Please let us work this time, but it went pretty well. So
I have terrible luck with technology. Terrible luck.
Yeah, technology is something that I don't enjoy. It's a necessary evil, sort of. But it also gives us the opportunity for me to sit in Germany, for you to sit in Maryland and have a nice conversation for an hour, although we are miles apart. So I definitely appreciate it in some sort of form.
Like the opposite of King Midas. Like whenever I come around it just goes wrong, I feel like.
Okay. So again, thank you very much for being around. Have a nice evening. Have a nice day. And I hope to read you and see you soon.
Sounds good, man. Take care.
Das war Humans and Robots für heute. Vielen Dank nochmal an Bobby Skullface, dass er dabei war. Alle Links zu Bobby findet ihr bei mir hier in der Videobeschreibung. Und ansonsten, wenn es euch gefallen hat, abonniert diesen Kanal für wöchentlich neue Videos rund um Transformers und andere Sammelfiguren. Bis dahin sage ich vielen Dank fürs Zuhören. Bis zum nächsten Mal. Ciao.